This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Hello, world, and welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. Today's sponsor is A2 Hosting. I've been using A2 Hosting solid state hosting solutions for our website at geekleader.com for many years now, and absolutely love their support, their service, and all the features that you get. You get access to cPanel. You get all of the things that you can imagine for a great WordPress experience, including their A2 optimized WordPress, which does extra security checks, extra lockdown. You can lock down your editor file so you can't edit anything inside there. You get alerts whenever there are file changes that are done. You can also do automatic updates, backups, and more with A2 Hosting. So highly recommend it. Go to geekleader.com/A2 to get more information and to sign up for their solid state turbocharged speed hosting today. Again, that's at geekleader.com/A2. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Louwki Louwki on the show. He is coming from Netsurit, and we're going to be talking a little bit about a lot of stuff. He's got an extensive background when it comes to helping companies with technical issues, whether it be digital transformation, cybersecurity, remote work, and all that good stuff. So we're going to be hitting on the highlights. With all that being said, Louwki, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me on the show. Really excited and looking forward to it.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today in your career and what is it that you're doing?
Awesome, yes. So my first computer was sort of in the 80s. It was called a ZX Spectrum. It was computers that were based off a tape drive system. And really just that's where my passion was born for computers. From there, I had every single computer that came out. So really got a deep understanding and a deep passion for technology. And then from there, so sort of went through all the computers. From there, I started playing a little bit of ice hockey. I played for South Africa's national team, traveled the world, and I got a big passion for culture and people and sort of got an understanding of, everything is not technology. You need people in the world and you need good teams. So that was a very interesting experience for me, but sort of during that experience, I realized that I'm going to have to work as well. So that brought me back to my passion of technology. So I went off from there. I did a bit of studies, really enjoyed it. They enjoyed me as well, and they actually asked me to join the program as a trainer, became an official trainer, trained for a lot of corporates, technology. But then I realized that I was missing out on my passion, and that I didn't implement it. I was training people, but I wasn't getting my own hands dirty. From there, I went on to the corporate world and started implementing technology, and I learned a very important lesson during that time, and that was just making sure your values and your culture is aligned, because the organization that I worked for, the values wasn't aligned. So I didn't last there too long. And then about 19 years ago now, I joined the company called Netsurit. And funny story on this, my wife actually saw an ad in the newspaper, and she knew I wasn't too happy, and she said, "Louwki, I'm going to apply for you." And I said, "There's no ways I'm joining a technology firm that's doing ads in the newspaper." So yeah, that was quite an interesting story, but that's sort of it. And from there, I've been in every role within Netsurit almost, except the finance team. I don't know why. But yes, we're a global technology company, about 300 people, and we really help companies get the best out of their technology, from digital transformation to security to just having a good operational technology framework and being able to get the best out of your technology.
So let's talk a little bit about security then. And, when I think about coming back from, we had the lockdown in COVID, a lot of people went remote, and there was a lot of security breaches that happened then. And then it kind of seemed to settle down a little bit. You heard less about it in the news. But just because you hear less about it in the news doesn't mean that there's less things going on. Well, what are you seeing right now?
That's a great question. And yes, you're 100% right. We may be seeing a little bit less in the news, but the honest truth is there's been a 400% increase on cyber attacks and cyber potential breaches. They have changed the way they attack, and they targeting a lot more SME, SMB type businesses these days. So we do a cyber risk assessment, a free cyber risk assessment for potential clients. And 1 out of 3, we get an active breach. So it is still very alive, and it's really rampant out there, unfortunately.
So are these like just because the staffs are just unaware, they're uneducated? What's typically the
Yes, I think
cause?
there's a combination, and there's quite a lot of things that take place in it. The one is the awareness, and it always starts with the leadership. Really, leaders need to understand the threat landscape and what they're dealing, and ensuring that they drive a culture of awareness. And your weakest link is your end users, unfortunately. So I would say there's a portion of that, and then another portion is the complexity and what these hackers are doing today. It's just becoming more and more advanced, and if you don't have the awareness, it's really hard to see these things.
So when you say awareness, do you mean you talking about from the leadership, like the top level down, or is it just all employees and general cyber education and things like that?
I would say it's all employees, but it starts with the leaders. And if the leaders have bad practices, so let's say they don't have multi-factor authentication because they say they're too busy and, they won't be attacked. If that's the culture of the leader, that's going to permeate down to the rest of the people, and they're going to have the same mentality. So for me, it does start with the leadership team and really taking it seriously, and then driving that culture down. And there's great ways these days to drive awareness. And you'll hear I'm saying awareness. You don't have to become a cybersecurity specialist, but you need to have the awareness of what are the things that I should be looking out for.
Yeah, for sure. And you see that a lot. I know. I think back on my days at a company, several companies ago, where I was working at, we had to make an exception to our password policy for the CEO every year because it's a family-owned company back then, and and he did not want to increase his password or change his password. So there was always an exception for that, and it just made me so mad.
And we see it so often. And for me, the only thing that we can do is make people aware of the risk. And at the end of the day, it's your business. It's how you want to run your business. But we've taken it sort of a step further, where if we do see some of these things, we'll give you a risk letter that say, here is a very high risk. Please be aware of it. We get them to actually countersign that they accept that risk. And then at the end of the day, you've made that business decision. And that for me is fine. We all have to live with and understand. But as long as you understand what risk am I opening myself up to, and if you can live with it, then, it's your prerogative, and that's all good.
Yeah, I know. We had a pen tester one time come in and do a pen test for us, and in the past when we've done pen tests, usually they just give us like the results, like here's the vulnerability we found, here's how we breached it, and move on. But we had one group come in and they did theirs, and they took it a step further, and they said, now that we've breached this is what we could have done with it, and they took like screenshots of what they would do in our Twitter account, and like how they could post this message from the CEO's Twitter account because they found his password on a file share somewhere, and this is what I could do with on your Facebook account, and here's what I can do to your YouTube account. Here's a form that I put on your WordPress to ask for payments and things like that. Just showing you all these little things that they were able to do, and what they it kind of it makes a bigger difference to leadership when they say, oh my gosh, they got in my Twitter account, versus just, oh, there's a vulnerability where we could have done something.
You're so right, and we've done it in the past as well with certain accounts that we showed them years what we were able to do. We were able to create an administrator account, and based on that administrator account, we could create these other things, and this is how it could impact your business. And you're right, that's really the only time, and we see it out in the industry as well, that the only time people start taking security serious is once there is a breach. It's obviously too late almost, but that's the only time that people really, really take it very serious.
So what are some common mistakes that small businesses make when it comes to cybersecurity?
So I would say just the awareness, and what I mean by that is big portion of businesses out there are using Microsoft as an example today. And Microsoft gives you the free tools. They give you something called a secure score. So you can very easily go and see what is your score and how do you compete against your peers, because it will show you your score relative to somebody else in your industry. And just having that awareness, if you've got a low score, then you are weaker than your competitor, whoever else is in your industry. So you become a really easy target for the hackers. So again, it comes back to that awareness. Once you have that awareness, then you can obviously decide how you want to act upon that awareness. But at least you can make an informed decision. So I think that is really one of the big things. There's obviously, from a tactical operational perspective, there's lots of things you can do, from multi-factor authentication, and the list goes on. And there's really easy things you can do. There's something called DMARC, which is a standard industry protocol to lock down your email. And I must be honest, maybe 1 out of 10 potential clients we deal with have DMARC configured. And it's industry practice to do that and lock your email down so people can't use your email to create phishing attacks. So there's all these little small things that you can do, and it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to implement some of these things.
Are most of these things included, like with Microsoft 365 or Google
Yes.
Suite?
So Microsoft's got different packages for your Microsoft small business, less than 300 users. There's something called Business Premium, which is basically get enterprise tooling for a small business. So it's priced at the right price point, and you get all the security features that you require to a certain extent, depending on your industry. If you're a financial firm, you might need more. So again, depending on your business and your business requirements, whatever your risk, your governance, risk, and compliance would dictate some of that. But yes, you can get a lot of these tools available. Obviously, you need to implement them correctly and then start monitoring them correctly. But there's a lot of options out there at an affordable price to really lock you down and harden and mature your security.
So when it comes to, awareness and staying current, I know right now, like, a lot of things are always changing, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. What are some ways that people can stay aware of what's going on? And, because I can think back, 10 years ago, just your standard antivirus was good enough. And then, and now you need like the next generation antiviruses or anti-malware tools. You need something, an XDR service. You got all these things now that are out there that, did not exist 5-6 years ago.
Yes, and that's very true. So I think a couple of things. The one is get yourself an awareness partner, and by that there's some tools that will give you end users awareness, and they will update their curriculum and course content to reflect on what is happening in the industry and give your community or your employees the right information to upskill them. But then you as a leader, either you need to educate yourself, which I know we all are very busy, and that's sometimes not the easiest thing to do. If you cannot do that, then the next step is either employ somebody. And again, for small businesses, to have a full-time security person is also a lot of times not the correct way or feasible. Then I would say the next step from there is to find a consulting person or consulting firm that you can entrust and work with to guide you and put you on the right path, and ask some of these current things. What is my current secure score from Microsoft if I'm on the Microsoft platform, and have a look at that type of data. I think that's the one thing that leaders shy away from sometimes is the information and the reports that providers can give them on their security. So ask them, how secure am I? What can you show me that prove that I'm secure? What's my patch levels within my environment or my machines being maintained and patched as a basic 101? And a lot of time people say, I'm too busy, I don't want to know about these things. But if it comes to your security, if you walk away from your car, you want to know that it's locked. You listen for that sound that the car got locked. And the same with your business. You need to take some ownership there and make sure that you feel your business have been locked.
So what do you say to the leaders that say, well, our business is just too small, no one's going to want to come after us because we're small?
And that we hear very often, and that it's very unfortunate, but we do hear it. And I think the realization is a lot of times it's not about your business, but it's about your client's business. We see that very often. So business might be small, but they deal with high net worth individuals, or they just deal with a normal individual, but it's a fairly large transaction. And what they will do is they will hack your system and impose that they're you, and they'll ask your client to deposit money into their account. And then you've got a bad reputation your image has been tarnished, and your client has lost faith, and eventually people won't trust you anymore. So it's not always about that they're after you, but they're after your clients. So there's lots of different angles and different ways that these hackers work today. So, and we see it happen daily, unfortunately.
Yeah. Um, so when it comes to, getting that score from Microsoft and, looking at it and trying to find the right partner, what are some things that we need to do as a small business leader, or maybe we're the director of IT for a small business or something like that. We want to find the right partner that fits us, that's not too expensive, but can help us, making sure we have the right thing in place. We were one of those companies, we can't afford a security engineer to be on, full time, but we know we need something. What do we do? What's the right questions to ask?
So I think the right questions to ask a potential party that can help you is, show me what value you can bring to the table and how would you secure my business based on my business requirement. I think that's the other important fact, is always, what is my business requirement, and making sure that whoever you're dealing with is understanding your business and the requirements of the business. If you, for instance, a construction firm, your security requirement is going to be very different to somebody that is doing something in the financial services sector. So really understanding your business, you need to make sure that you feel comfortable that that person truly understands your requirement. And then based on that, what can they offer you to lock you down, and how they're going to prove or show that to you on a month-to-month basis at a reasonable price, having said all of that. So for instance, when we go in, we'll do a free risk analysis, and we'll give you a report showing you exactly what we found in the environment and ways we're going to remediate those potential threats.
Yeah, so basically make sure you find someone that's going to give you a good report, and give you some information up front that you can kind of use and see, okay, this is a good partner for me. This is, they're understanding my business needs, concerns, and this is how they're going to tailor their services to fit that.
Agreed. And one thing to add on that is somebody that's going to be proactive about it and work on it month to month. It's unfortunately, security and good governance is not something that you do as a once-off. It is a continuous thing that day in and day out, you have to be on top of these things and making sure it is really aligned and that the security or the alarm is always active within your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of being proactive and governance and things like that, a lot of businesses now are having to deal with a lot of privacy issues and concerns that they didn't have to deal with before. When it comes to GDPR or California privacy, what is something that small businesses need to pay attention to when it comes to some of these areas?
It's a great question, and you're 100% right. It's going to become more and more complex, and the requirements are going to become more and more. I think eventually all states within the US will have some compliancy that they're going to impose, like California. So I think it's, again, understand that is coming as a leader today, and really start thinking, what are some of these governance things we need to think about in our industry, in our sector, and then applying the right ways. Again, you can start looking at a lot of technology out there today to help you with that. There's a lot of automation. So really start thinking about, if I need to do something on privacy, how do I automate it? If I want to scale my business, I can't just put human capital onto that the whole time. So how do I start thinking about more transformational services? So I need to comply. I want to ensure I can do it effectively and easily. And one of those ways is really to start thinking about digital transformation and bringing in the right processes. And once you have the right processes, to automate it to ensure your compliance is aligned.
Yeah, for sure. What are the other transformation things that we need to be paying attention to, from a technology standpoint with our businesses to make sure that we are, not falling behind?
That's such a great question, John. So from a digital transformation perspective, we see it sort of in phases, and it's a continuous improvement transformation. I think a lot of organizations today have great tooling, but they're only using 20% of it. And what we do see is, we call it shadow IT. People just start buying tools all over the show, and before you know it, you've got 10 different SaaS applications, but they're not intertwined and connected. So it's really, how do I become effective with my tooling and understand it? So really that you can do great collaboration. So that's step one. I'd say step two is then integrating some of that data and giving you an overlay of that information so that you can easily look at all this data together and make business decisions. And again, there's a lot of free tools from Microsoft today that can create a lot of these automation for you with Power Automate, Power BI. And again, it comes all in these bundled subscriptions from Microsoft that you can utilize to start transforming your business.
Yeah, for sure. And, there's a lot of those tools that, you might already have that you just need to go and dig into and figure out. I think one of the tools that, comes with Microsoft 365 is Microsoft Planner. And that's a nice little tool just to help manage projects. Yet a lot of companies will go out and purchase other tools, and then you'll find that, you have your marketing department using, Monday.com, and someone else is using Trello, and someone else is using Planner. And, whereas we probably could just consolidate it into one tool and, save not just money on licenses, but also be able to integrate and work together on products and things like that.
You're so right. So Microsoft's actually got a score like the Secure Score, but it's on productivity within your organization. And again, you can go and look at your productivity. And what it will tell you is, are people late for meetings? Are they attending meetings on time? Do they have their camera on? It will start giving you very insightful information and show you ways to really start utilizing the tools better, like Planner, to do. There's quite a lot of these transformational tools, but it will give you a guidance and a roadmap how to improve it. And that's one of the services we actually offer. We've got something called Innovate as a Service, where we help people to transform, and it starts with your collaboration services, but then all the way to Power BI, Power Automate. And we've got a guarantee that whatever you spend with us, we will give you 100% return on that innovation. So again, we're very confident, and we're seeing great digital transformation through this within organizations.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's cool. So that Microsoft score, have you seen like leaders try to use that in a negative way and saying, hey, this employee is not very productive? Or is it just as a organizational score?
That's a great question. So Microsoft, obviously from a privacy perspective, we need to be very careful how we utilize and consume it. But what this will do is it will only show you from an organizational perspective. So it's not ever going to go and say, Joe Blogs didn't have his camera on. It will say, as an organization, as an example, only 40% of the people have their cameras on. So it will never pinpoint and sort of tarnish anybody directly. It's going to show you holistically how productive are you as an organization, and therefore, as an organization, you can decide to do different things.
Ah, cool. Yeah, that's really cool, because I think there's obviously going to be some concern about some people when they see some things like that. They don't want to be found out. But
no, and you're 100% right. If you start meetings always late, people maybe don't want to be named and shamed there. But it's going to show you as an organization what is your tardiness, as an example. And again, you can take it with a pinch of salt, or you can say that's the culture and we're fine with it. But again, it's information, and
right.
As a leader, that's the one thing that you always need is information, because based on that, you can make the right business decision, whatever that is for you.
So what other tools do you think that are out there that companies already have that maybe they're not utilizing to their full potential?
It's a big question, but again, we see it in quite a lot of different ways coming through, from ERP systems to financial systems, and just really unlocking the value that's in there. And I guess you start talking big data. And what we see is, again, lots of different tools, but they don't have something tying it together and giving you a structured method of looking at data. So I'd say sort of a system that can tie all of this together, so you can click through data and say, well, show me my top spending customer as an example, and then show me what products they consume. And being able to just click on these things and have an easy flow or easy narrative of data, depending on what you want to see. I think there's a big opportunity from that side. And then further to that, if we really start talking transformational, is AI. I think AI is in very early stages, as we've seen in the last 2-3 months. If we think about Chat GPT, just what that's done in the last couple of months has been very transformational. So I think that's the next real big thing that's coming down the line. In some instances, maybe a little bit early, but there's definitely big potential there.
Yeah, for sure. And, I'll be honest with you, I've used Chat GPT for a lot of little things. Like I had someone send me a message and ask me to write them a job recommendation. And so I went into ChatGPT. I said, "Can you write a recommendation for a person that does this? His name is this," and and all of a sudden it gave me something. I said, "Hey, let me read it," and change a couple of words here and there. That looks good. Copy paste, boom, move on. I've also used it for emails, where people had sent me a message that says, "Hey, can you explain how to, how do I connect to my Microsoft account from my, Samsung smartphone?" Oh, well, let me ask ChatGPT. Copy the steps, paste it in there.
There's so many use cases for it, and it's quite interesting if you look at the growth at that and how quickly they've grown. It's one of the fastest platforms ever to grow. And then on the flip side, they are offline so many times because of the demand, but people just keep on going back and keep on coming. So I think it just shows the potential of this platform and how hungry people are for this.
Yeah, for sure. And it's it's one of those tools that's out there that's really easy. Instead of I could have spent 15 minutes, writing instructions on how to set up your email, or I can just put it in ChatGPT, copy and paste it, and send it off.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that's going to be very transformative, and I think there's lots of potential still to be unlocked. I saw somebody actually posted a book on Amazon using ChatGPT, and they used some additional technology to create images, but it basically asked ChatGPT to write it a storybook of what AI is in a narrative a kid could understand as a bedtime story. And you can actually now go and buy that book online, and it shows you all the code that he used, or all the questions it asked ChatGPT. But it's a book that was published by AI as well on Amazon. So again, very, very powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting where this is going. I mean, someday we won't be having this conversation. It'll just be two AIs.
I don't think we're going to totally get there, but yes, that those are very, very real potentials. But I think it's really, how do we take this technology and apply it, like we've been talking security today as an example. How do we utilize that AI to look at all this data, all these security things, and start protecting us? And today there's already portions of that, but I think the evolution and where this is going will really advance over time.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a great conversation, Louwki. If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about how they can connect with you, and if they have any more questions, how they can follow up and connect with you online.
Oh, great. Thanks, John. Yes, so you can connect with us at netsurit.com, or you can connect to us on LinkedIn, or you'll see our phone number on the website. Feel free to give us a call. We would love to have a chat with you. At the moment, we are offering a free risk assessment. So if anybody is interested in that, we can sort of show you where you are today and how it potentially can help you.
Awesome. And I'll link that up in the show notes too at geekleader.com, so people can go there as well and link over and get that free risk assessment. Thanks so much, Louwki, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, John. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
If you enjoyed that episode, please leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate that. And also, don't forget to check out merch. We have some t-shirts that I've designed that are on at geekleader.com. You can click on the merchandise section there and check that out. And also, don't forget about the books from our guests. So if you like this guest and other guests that have written books, please go ahead and check that out at geekleader.com. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too.